Finally, some great news for Ukraine. On Wednesday, April 22, the ambassadors of the European Union countries approved a loan for Ukraine of 90 billion euros and the 20th package of sanctions against Russia. It was worth getting rid of Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, and all the key decisions of the European Union started being made at lightning speed. Although, when it comes to sanctions against Russia, there were some complications here, some unpleasant ones. At the same time, today it became officially known that Ukraine has resumed the supply of Russian oil through the Druzhba pipeline, which was repaired the day before. To speak cynically and honestly, both sides have done their part of the deal. In this episode, we will discuss not only the opening of the Druzhba oil pipeline, but also, most importantly, how exactly that 90 billion euro loan for Ukraine will work. And why, contrary to Russian propaganda, there's no need to be afraid of the word loan, because in fact, Ukraine will not have to pay back either the principal or the interest on this loan. I'll explain why in this episode. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like the video, and leave any comment under the video. Also, subscribe to my Telegram channel Peachy News, the link is in the description of this video. So, the ambassadors of the European Union countries today, April 22, approved a loan for Ukraine of 90 billion euros and approved the 20th package of sanctions against Russia. According to the representative of Cyprus, who is currently presiding over the Council of the European Union, the formal written procedure has already been launched. It is expected that the corresponding procedure will be completed tomorrow, April 23, in the second half of the day. The ambassadors of all 27 European Union countries must sign the document, which means that only the bureaucratic procedure remains to be completed. The political part of the loan approval has already been completed, and it can be said that the decision is final. The European Union loan for Kiev was blocked by the government of Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, the most ardent opponent of Ukraine in the European Union. And now, the recent defeat of Viktor Orban in the elections has paved the way for the approval of this loan, which the EU countries agreed on back in December of last year. Since it was expected that Hungary would lift the veto, well, because Orban lost. Diplomats stated that the situation around the loan is developing very rapidly, while also noting that Ukraine needs to hurry with implementing the reforms necessary to receive the funding. And you know, it's funny to watch because as soon as Viktor Orban lost the elections, all the processes suddenly started moving forward. And it's funny that Orban himself is still formally in power, let me remind you, and today the decision on the loan was made by the same Hungarian ambassador who, under Orban, had previously opposed it. Well, that's how the situation works. Although some officials in Hungary apparently still haven't fully realized that they've already lost power, that the elections are already over. They lost badly. Let me explain. The thing is, Ukraine has started filling the Druzhba oil pipeline. Tomorrow, deliveries to Slovakia are expected to resume. This was announced by the Slovak Minister of Economy, Denisa Sakova. Here is the quote. According to Ukrtransnafta, this morning the pressure started to increase and the Druzhba oil pipeline began to be filled on the Ukrainian side from Belarus. It is expected that the pumping and deliveries to Slovakia will resume tomorrow morning on April 23. The president of Ukraine, let me remind you, also confirmed that the Druzhba oil pipeline has been restored and is ready to continue supplying oil to some European countries. A quote from Zelensky. As agreed with the European Union, Ukraine has completed repair work on the section of the Druzhba oil pipeline that was damaged by a Russian strike. The oil pipeline can resume operation, although no one can guarantee now that Russian strikes on the oil pipeline infrastructure will not happen again. Our specialists have provided the basic conditions for resuming the operation of the pipeline system and equipment. We also link this to the unblocking of the European support package for Ukraine, which has already been approved by the European Council. And against this background, that's why I said that some officials in Hungary apparently still haven't woken up and don't understand what has actually happened. Against this background, the Hungarian Minister for European Union Affairs, János Bock, who was appointed under Viktor Orban, still seems unaware of what happened or that the elections already occurred. He stated that oil transportation from Belarus to Ukraine has begun through the Druzhba pipeline, and he immediately added that this is all thanks to Hungary and personally to Viktor Orban, because, as he put it, Hungary broke the blockade of Ukraine. Next is a quote from this very Jan Szaboki. "We broke the Ukrainian oil blockade. It was proven that Ukraine blocked oil supplies for political reasons, and it was also proven that they ran out of money before we ran out of oil. The Hungarian tactic led to success. Blocking the Ukrainian credit line of 90 billion euros was not the goal, but a means to defend our interests, which was forced by Ukraine's dishonest behavior." Well, a funny guy, that János Bóka. The Druzhba oil pipeline was restored because Orban is no longer in power. And Europe fulfilled its promises regarding the loan, and Hungary deserves no credit for this, especially not in breaking the blockade by Orban's supporters, that is, supporters of Viktor Orban. No, it's just that a new prospective prime minister has emerged in Hungary who is more or less adequate for relations with Ukraine. So, here you go, it's been restored. And the elections are over, János Szaboka. Why are you waving your saber? What are you trying to prove? What blockade did you break? That's it, you lost the elections. But let's discuss the actual loan to Ukraine from the European Union for 90 billion euros. That's much more interesting. Many people are scared by such a figure, 90 billion euros, saying that Ukraine will have to pay it back for so many years. Russians especially, for some reason, love to shout that Ukraine is getting into debt. But why do Russians care? What difference does it make to them anyway? But nevertheless, Russian propaganda keeps shouting, look, Ukraine is getting into debt, they'll be paying this money back for generations. But Russians, by the way, don't act like this for no reason. They know something. This 90 billion euro loan has a unique structure that is significantly different from regular loans. According to the decisions of the European Council and the European Commission, the main financial burden falls on the European Union itself, not on Ukraine's budget. How will all this work? The European Union borrows 90 billion euros on international capital markets backed by the EU's own budget. Ukraine will not pay interest on this loan. The debt servicing costs, that is, the very interest, which is about 3 billion euros per year, are covered by the EU member states, except for Hungary, Slovakia, Bulgaria, and the Czech Republic. All the others contribute equally to cover these loan interest payments. As for when the loan needs to be repaid, that's also an interesting point, because this loan doesn't have a fixed repayment date. It will be extended until the conditions for its repayment arise. And this is where the most important point comes in. It explains why Ukraine won't be paying back any money at all. The main condition for repayment: Ukraine is obliged to return the principal of the loan, that is, these very 90 billion euros, only if Ukraine receives reparations from Russia for the damage caused by the war. That's why this format is often called a reparations loan, because it essentially shifts the responsibility. The obligations for repayment are tied to future Russian payments for reparations. This means that in Europe they are confident that the uncivilized Russians will have to pay the bills. In turn, the new already 20th package of sanctions against the Russian Federation, which has also received preliminary approval, will strengthen the European Union's campaign aimed at reducing the Russian Federation's revenues, particularly from energy sales. The European Union hoped to introduce this package of sanctions before the 4th anniversary of the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine, but was unable to do so because of Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. But sanctions are not that simple. The main measure against the Russian shadow fleet, a ban on providing it with services in Europe, will apparently be postponed due to the tense situation on the global oil market as a result of the war in the Middle East. The point is that Russian tankers can still be serviced by Europeans. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel and consider its work important and necessary, you can leave a donation, become a sponsor of this channel, or donate in any way that's convenient for you. All links and details are in the video description. Any support is appreciated. And subscribe to the Telegram channel Pitchy News. The link is also in the video description. That's it for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone. Subtitles.